This video examines the concept of authenticity. Francesca Alberry, who's the research director at Firefish, recently said this: "Authenticity is a word you see so much it almost loses meaning. When you talk to people about what authenticity is, they find it difficult to articulate because the word is so broad and subjective. Brands should start using values and words that are fixed in people's minds in communication rather than relying on the umbrella of authenticity, which is in some ways so subjective it becomes a bit meaningless." Now, I'm not sure I agree with her. This is me talking. This isn't Francesca Alberry talking. I don't know if I agree with her because I think the challenge is we haven't provided good definitions of the word authenticity, and we haven't connected those definitions to what brands really do. And so, what we're going to think about today is why is authenticity important, and then talk about different types of authenticity that a brand can have. We can think of brands as a lot of things. We can think of brands as a logo or brands as the name on a product. But in when we think about brands in terms of brand responsibility, we think about brands as social actors, meaning brands are participants in society just like we are, just like people are. And when we think about authenticity for a person, we can see some of the benefits of that and how that translates to a brand. So one aspect of authenticity is it gives us a long-term perspective. Is when we are being our authentic self, that is the self we are being today and tomorrow and a year from now and 10 years from now. And so a, an authentic brand then has a long term perspective on who they are and why they exist. And that is a touchstone that a brand can always come back to. For a responsible brand, then that touchstone is the moral compass. In terms of when a brand is asking itself what it should or shouldn't do, what it can and can't do, it can look to its authenticity, its purpose, as a direction to see if it's doing the right thing or not. If it does these two things, if it takes a long term perspective with a consistent authenticity, and for a responsible brand, when it becomes their moral compass, that can add great value to a brand because everyone knows exactly what to expect and what they are getting from the brand. For a responsible brand, it's in terms of what they are getting from the brand in terms of its commitment to society. So we can think of a brand like Ben and Jerry's, for example. Everyone knows that that brand is committed to social good. And regardless of what the flavor is or regardless of what the issue is, we know that brand Ben and Jerry's is probably going to be involved there. So that adds value to us as consumers, and it gives us a new way to navigate choice. We can look not only at good ice cream or yummy ice cream, but we can also start to make choices based on what whether a brand's values reflect our own values. And so understanding what a brand authentically is a way that consumers can start to better navigate that choice. There are different aspects to authenticity, and a brand can pick one or all or a couple of these aspects when they're thinking about what the brand is from an authentic perspective. The first is continuity, and that is a brand with history that survives time, that survives trends, and that is timeless. So that's continuity. The second is credibility, a brand that will not betray you, that accomplishes its value promise, and that is honest. The third is integrity, a brand that gives back, that cares, and that has moral principles. It's important to recognize that consumers have a lot of tension in their lives, and brands are part of that tension. When we are thinking about a responsible brand, we like to think about a brand that is doing good, that makes us feel good about being part of that brand. But there's this tension between commerce and community, that brands exist because we buy brands and companies can survive. And sometimes we worry that because there's always this commercial aspect, that the purpose, the doing good that a brand can do, is going to be secondary, or it's only done in service to selling more products. So, a tension that a brand like Starbucks has, for example, is this tension between commerce and community. Starbucks wants to be, and probably has established themselves before COVID-19 as the place, as the third place, the place where that isn't work or home, that we can go to be with a community. But that community doesn't, and that's a great value that connects with people, that people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. But that community doesn't exist without commerce. So Starbucks has to kind of figure out how long it's okay for you to be sitting around a Starbucks without buying anything. And so people have to feel to figure out what their commercial responsibility is to be part of that community too. So these tensions exist all the time, but the overriding tension is the commercial aspect of working in brand communications. And because we are working in a consumption community, we are in a materialistic society, that tension is always going to exist. So we can't pretend that tension doesn't exist. We have to recognize that tension is there and be okay with it in terms of how it helps us create the best messages possible. So these are questions that a brand can ask itself to determine its authenticity. Who is our community? Who are the people who are loyal to us, who have been with us for a long time, who gather around us as a brand? And looking at who that community is a way to help a brand see who they themselves are. What have we always been? Looking at the brand's heritage. A good place to start whenever you're trying to figure out what a brand is doing or what a brand should be doing is to look at the heritage. Look at its About Us page on its website and look at the history of the brand and look at what motivated the people who started the brand to start that brand and see what the authentic things are that you can use from your heritage to build on in today's society. Often, why the brand started is because of some values that the founders hold dear. So you want to think about what drives our values. Why are those values that we had when the founders started the company as important or even more important for today? What do we stand for as a brand? If someone came up to us and said, take a side on this issue, would we know where we were going to stand? Or we and do we know the issues where we're not going to take a stand? That's almost as important as knowing what you are going to take a stand on. And what do you want to be known for? At the end of the day, thinking of that long-term perspective as an actor in society, what do you want to be known for? And though the answers to all these questions build into our ideas of authenticity.